What's going on YouTube? Streetriders 209. Today what I'm going to show you guys how to be doing is replacing the hub and bearing assembly for your front wheels. This is a 2003 Silverado, two-wheel drive, and I don't know if you guys ever been driving down the road, but all of a sudden you start hearing like a grinding noise or like a loud hum come out of your wheels. Well, that's not normal. Usually what that means is that your hub and bearing went bad, and I'm going to show you guys kind of right now what to look for. First and foremost, I've replaced the hub and bearing on this truck already twice since I've had it back in 2007. One thing is for sure, if you are driving down the road, you hit a pothole or you hit a bump and then you instantly hear the noise, then that's like the first heads up that something went bad. More than likely your hub and bearing, when your ball joints go bad due to that, it still doesn't really make that noise. You get more of a wobbliness, like a different feel to the drive. But when you hear the hum, the loud hum or the scrape, that means your hub or your bearings went bad on your wheel end. So I have this up on the jack right now. So I'm gonna kind of get it spinning a little bit fast so you guys could kind of, I hope you guys can hear, but this is normal. You can hear a very faint grind from your brake pads. Well, that's normal. Also, one of the main things, usually how you find out that your bearing assembly went bad, is when you could tilt your wheel upwards this way, this direction, and on the bottom side. So basically like this. That is like the number one way to find out that your hub and bearing is bad. When they wobble in this direction, that means they're really bad. Back when I worked at the repair shop, we used to get some customers coming in there and their hub and bearing was shot. I mean, literally, when that happens, your wheel could fall off in no time. In this direction, you'll have a little bit of wobble. That's normal, but if it's too much, usually that will mean that something is wrong in your suspension, ball joints. In this direction, also ball joints, but you have to kind of look in the back and keep an eye out and have a friend maybe shake it. If you could tell that the ball joints are moving, then more than likely it could also be a ball joint. But if the ball joints are staying in place and you have a friend shaking this up and down like this and it's moving and you can't really tell, that more than likely means your hub and bearings are bad. So like I said, a little bit of grinding on the brake pad section is normal. Let me move on to the other side and I'll show you guys what the other side sounds like. Alright guys, we're on the passenger side. I'm about to start doing the whole move, the whole spin, and see you guys can catch a difference. Let me spin it in the other direction. I don't know if you guys could hear that on video, but that is not normal. You could definitely hear a big grind. That means your bearings are bad. I mean, not only can you hear the grind, but then you got that little chirping sound. On the other side, there was nothing more than the slight grind from the brake pads, where you could still hear very faintly. Here, it's a totally different story. So at first, I thought it was my driver's side. I knew it went bad because I did hit a pothole, and I instantly, about 2-3 seconds after the truck like straightened back out from all the shaking from the pothole, I could hear the grinding. So I knew one of my bearings went out. It gave me the assumption from the sound from inside the truck as if it was the driver's side. I ordered it. It came in. I lifted this truck, checked it, and it's the passenger side. So let me show you guys what I'm going to be replacing. Alright guys, so here we have it. For a lot of you guys that have never seen a hub assembly before, this is what it consists of. You have your sensor, and you have your bearings in the hub. It's all joint one piece. So this is what bolts up to your truck, and then this is where your rims bolt up to. So it's very easy to replace these. Things like this I honestly recommend for anybody to replace it themselves at home. You don't need any special machinery, other than sometimes if you have a torque wrench, just to make sure that you apply the right torque once you're putting all these bolts back together. I would not take my truck to the shop to have this hub assembly replaced. Number one, they're easy. Number two, they're gonna charge you about an hour and a half labor. So on general, they probably start charging from $75 and up. And this really just takes like 20 minutes, to replace this. You do not have to remove any components from your vehicle. So let's do this. First thing I'm going to do is remove my rim. Alright guys, so the wheel has been removed. Yeah, that's bad. So first thing I'm going to do to this is remove the caliper. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do on this is attempt to remove the bolt on this side. Right here. There's one up here and there's one down here. Now that's an 18mm bolt. We're going to use a breaker bar. Apologize for the noise. There's neighbors are having a party a couple houses down, and it's real loud. There's one. There we have it. Alright, so here we have the two bolts. This assembly should fall off. But what I'm going to do beforehand is I'm just going to go ahead and remove the sensor for the hub assembly. Follows all the way up to here, and then it has the, I don't know if you guys can't see it, but it has a connection up here. So let me unclip that. See? So it's loose now. to take off all the clips that hold it in place. Alright, now it's all the way free. Now this should come right off. There it is. Just gonna grab a jack stand and help it with the weight. Lean it up against something because these suckers are heavy, so since it's still connected with a brake line, you don't want this hanging off of the brake line or it will damage it. So next thing that's coming off is your disc or your rotor. I'm gonna spray a little bit WD-40 on here just to kind of make that slide right off. Alright, so I'm gonna put some WD-40. That'll just ease that because there's a lot of corrosion and rust in this area. So next you want to kind of tap the rotor to make sure that it comes loose. I always use a piece of wood behind it, between the hammer and the rotor. That way you don't damage this physically with the hammer. So there it is. Just kind of clean it up a little bit before you put it back on there. FYI, this is pretty much how you do your brakes. Since your caliper was already off, that's where you come in and you replace your brake pads. Except you don't take off the full assembly, you take off only the caliper part. Man, listen to that thing. That is not good. Alright, so now I'll be using a 15mm socket for the back, the bolts. And that's these bolts right here. 1, 2, and third one up here. So those 3 are the bolts here, here, and here. There. So those come off with a 15mm. I had already loosened one on earlier, so that's why it moved real easy, but let me show you guys what it looks like. Three of these bolts right here. Alright, all 3 of them are loose. Well, the last 2 are loose. One out. Here's your second one. Now you guys can see this is moving, ready to come off. And there we have it. Alright, so now that it's loose, slide it right off. Slide off this cover, dust cover. Take off your sensor from inside of it. And that's how it is. First thing I just noticed, see how you guys can see the bearings? There's actually very bad, there's no grease in there at all. That is good. This is definitely garbage. The dust cover seems like it disappeared, so probably should have checked these a while back. So you guys can see the new one. You can't actually see the bearings. So next thing we do, slide the wiring right back through that same loophole. There we have it. You guys can see this notch right here. That is for the sensor. So align your bolts here, here, and here. Your sensor is right there, so it's out of the way. And you're pretty much ready. So this goes back on. Cover facing towards the front. First bolt in. Kind of wobble it a little bit just to make sure that those threads go in nice and neat. You guys can see the thread right there. That means it's good. Onto the other two. Alright, they're all nice and tight, finger strength. So now I will crank them back up. Now you should have your bearings checked quite often, especially if you're going to have a long trip, or if you're going to commute to work and you go through a very tough road, a lot of potholes, a lot of bumps. This bearing is definitely going to wear out much faster. So you want to either take it into your local mechanic, have it lifted up on a jack and checked. It doesn't, I mean, most places do it for free if you're getting some kind of alignment or maybe an oil change even. But when they want to tell you that they want to charge you $100 to replace it, walk out. You end up going away with a $200 bill, including parts. The hub I picked up on Amazon. Alright guys, so as you guys can see, everything got darker. My hands are clean. That didn't happen out of magic. My battery died, so I had to sit there and charge it for about half hour. Now it's a little bit darker. Turn on my flashlight. So I was tightening up these last 2 screws. So let me finish that real quick. Alright, all 3 are tight. Run my cable. Plug it in. Alright, so actually first what I'll be doing, now that the hub is put together, it's bolted right up, put your disc back on, or rotor. Now this is kind of where you want to put 1 or 2 studs back on there, some bolts, just to make sure that it's nice and straight when you're trying to put the caliper back on, so it doesn't move around. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is slide your brake pads back open. And there it is, it's back in. I just gotta find my bolts, slide them back in place. Top one in. I'll look for the bottom one. All right, bottom one in. So the bottom one's finger tightened. Now you go for the top. Alright, top one is finger tightened. So now you tighten it up with the breaker bar. The reason why I like to use a breaker bar is because it's a lot longer than your regular wrenches or ratchets. So it allows you for a little bit more leverage, a little bit more strength. There it is. Now it's done. Remove your studs, or bolts I mean, or lug nuts. Now I gotta zip tie this onto here, because since the truck is lifted, all of these little adapters for the plugs don't work. Just gotta go grab a zip tie real quick. Alright guys, so now what I'll be doing is I'll be putting a zip tie right alongst here. Like I said, mainly just because the truck is lifted in this, there's nowhere for me to grab onto this. I'll also be putting another one a little bit higher, just to make sure that this wiring doesn't interfere anywhere with the spring. Alright. So there we have it. The whole job is done. Now I will be putting the rim back on, tightening it up, and dropping it off the jack. Took me a little bit longer between recording and finding the tools that I thought I had in my toolbox, which apparently was not true. It took me a little bit longer, but if you have on hand, like I said, 18 millimeter for the big bolts up here, 15 millimeter for the 3 bolts down there, just a couple zip ties if you need them, some pliers, a hammer, piece of wood, some WD-40, and you can actually bust this out in 20 minutes or less. That's, as you guys could tell, I did it all by hand. That's not using any air ratchets, which I do have right here, or impacts, which I also do have. Just wanted to show you guys that you guys could do this with just mainly hand tools, and it's pretty fast, it's pretty easy. There's really no risk of you getting hurt. One thing is, you make sure when you have the jack up there, you make sure you put some jack stands under the frame always. You know, you never know what could go wrong. Those jacks could fail at any minute, so you want to make sure you're safe in that aspect. As far as that, just make sure you torque or hand tighten those bolts as much as you can. Double check always. Make sure that you went over every bolt. Sometimes you might think that you went over another one and you went over the same one. So double check the bolts. As far as me, I'm just going to put this rim back on real quick. And you're done. That's how you repair a hub and bearing. Like I said earlier, I will have the link on the description of where to get this hub. This is a 2003 Chevy Silverado 1500 two-wheel drive, and these are, I think, both left and right, so it doesn't matter. So it's done. It's hot. I'm a little bit worn down, but we got it. Like I said, this job usually takes no more than 30 minutes, having the tools on hand. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it helps you out. Remember, I mean, there's no reason for paying high when you can do it yourself. So hope you guys like it. If you like it, thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs down. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching. More videos on the way. Thank you.